Everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at this 2022 Chevrolet Colorado ZR2. There are three main variables when it comes to the ZR2. This one is obviously a crew cab model. You can see it has a 5-foot bed. You can also get the ZR2 in an extended cab configuration with a longer 6-foot bed. So you trade some cab space for a longer bed. That's one of the variables. The second variable is powertrain. This one has a 3.6 liter gas V6. It's kind of the less exciting powertrain. It's pretty mainstream. It makes 308 horsepower and 275 pounds-feet of torque, and it is mated to an 8-speed automatic. You can also get the Colorado and the ZR2 here with a turbo diesel engine. It's a 2.8 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel. It makes only 181 horsepower, but 369 pounds-feet of torque. So really low on horsepower, but pretty respectable when it comes to torque. And that is mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission. The third variable with the ZR2 is the Bison package. Unfortunately, this one does not have the Bison package, but the Bison package, or the ZR2 Bison, became available for the 2019 model year. I was on the press drive for that vehicle, so I have driven a Bison. It's a collaboration with American Expedition Vehicles, better known as AEV, and it's a really efficient package in that it adds a lot of the features someone would look to add to this vehicle via the aftermarket if you were looking to turn it into an off-road overland adventure rig. Really cool package, really innovative. There's not really anything else like it in this segment, but unfortunately this ZR2 is just a regular old run-of-the-mill ZR2. It's pretty much the most mainstream ZR2 you can get, but either way, it's still pretty fun and it's still got a lot of cool stuff going for it. So let's do a little tour of this Colorado ZR2 here and then take it for a drive. So this generation of the Colorado went on sale in the United States for the 2015 model year, but the ZR2 version didn't go on sale until the 2017 model year. And then it received an update for 2021 that made it look how it looks here. This is a 2022 model. The update changed the grille here on the regular ZR2. Didn't really change a whole lot else. Tailgate's a little bit different, but up here you've got red recovery points. That's kind of a prerequisite for any of these off-road oriented mid-sized trucks. This right here, that's a steel skid plate. Pretty neat to see a steel skid plate come up that far, although I will say there's a lot of plastic up front here on this bumper. Approach angle, you would think it's pretty good because the bumper is so angled and because there are these cutouts right here, but I don't know it off the top of my head, but I know that it's actually not that impressive. I mean, this comes down pretty far right here, but either way, you've got the Chevrolet wordmark grille. That's one of the changes that came for 2021. And there is a little bow tie emblem right there. The Bison gets an entirely different front end design. Well, the headlights are the same, but this piece is different because the Bison has a special steel bumper up front here. The grille has this kind of scoop looking thing on it, but it's entirely fake. That's just a piece of black plastic right there. What is cool about the ZR2, probably the coolest thing about it, is that the track is actually wider. So up front here, you've got wider control arms, and that makes the vehicle 3.5 inches wider than a regular Colorado. And that means that not only are the wheels out further, but the bodywork comes out further as well. So this plastic piece here, you won't find it on a regular Colorado. Regular Colorado ends right there, but on the ZR2, has to come out a little bit further. And then on the Bison, these plastic fender flares are even bigger, which is really neat. These are 17-inch wheels. They look pretty neat. They're pretty complicated wheel design. There's kind of a bronze ring around the outside, although it's just painted on. If you look closely there, you can see the paint line, and it's not exactly even. So they look cool from about 6 feet away. They say ZR2 there, 6 lugs, and then these tires are Goodyear Wrangler Duratrax. They're a pretty common tire throughout General Motors lineup especially, and they are size 265, 65, R17. I'm gonna say these are about a 31-inch tire. The ZR2's main selling point are its shock absorbers. So these come from a company called Multimatic, and they brand them as DSSV, Position Sensitive spool valve damping. It says strength through technology there. And these shocks look really unique. There's nothing else like these anywhere else in the off-road market, at least outside of GM's own portfolio. They've got pretty eye-catching branding there. They're gold with blue bits, and they do function a little bit differently without getting into technical details, because honestly, I'm not fully clear on how they work, but I know they work a little bit differently than, say, the Fox shocks that you'll find on a Tacoma TRD Pro or a Ford Ranger Tremor. But in terms of performance, all these trucks perform pretty similarly across the board. So while these shocks are a little bit more interesting, they're certainly cool to look at. Functionally, the benefits are probably overstated, to be honest. I've driven every off-road truck in this segment, and the ZR2 here performs really well, but not necessarily better than the other vehicles at this level in this segment. Anyway, though, Multimatic shocks, one of the most unique things about the ZR2. Not many competitors, or not any competitors really, go about suspension in this manner. Moving down the side, no rock sliders on this one, though they are available on the Bison. Like I said, this is a crew cab. It's a very blue exterior. We'll get to the color in a moment. Here you can get a better look at the rear shocks. And again, the rear track is 3 inches wider, just like the front. And then something kind of interesting. The ZR2 has an identical matching spare, meaning that even the spare wheel itself is matching. So you get the same wheel and the same tire that's on the vehicle right now. The drawback, though, I'm told, is that there's no TPMS sensor in the spare. So my first thought was you might as well do a 5-tire rotation, because, you know, this tire probably costs $200, $250 if you were to buy it individually, but given that there's no TPMS sensor, you can't really rotate the spare in with the rest of the vehicle. If there's a way, I don't know if you can add a TPMS sensor. I don't know if that would screw up the whole TPMS system to have a 5th TPMS sensor on board here. But yeah, if anyone's figured out a solution to that, please let us know, because being able to rotate this spare tire in is kind of like getting $250 for free, because you get more life out of these tires. Anyway, moving on. Here is the rear, and one of the changes for 2021 is that the Colorado now comes with a stamped tailgate that says Chevrolet across the back here. And then it says Colorado. No bow tie back here, I just realized. But it does say ZR2 right there. Tailgate is very nicely damped. The bed here is really simple. Most of the time in this segment, you find at least an outlet or a light or a storage cubby or a rail system or cleats or foldable D-rings or something. But the ZR2 bed here, at least in this one, is really as Spartan as truck beds come. The only functional elements are these tie downs right here. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. It does say ZR2 against the bulkhead there. This is a spray and bed liner from the factory. You can see all the way down to the ground right there. And that's really it for the bed. Here's the key. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a violation of the Geneva Convention, because you not only have to use the fob to lock and unlock the vehicle, there's no passive keyless entry here, but you also have to use this to start the car. So every time you get in your truck here, you have to pull the key out of your pocket and actually use it to start the car. Climbing inside, here is the window sticker. So this is a 2022 Chevrolet Colorado 4-wheel drive ZR2 crew cab. The exterior is called bright blue metallic, and that's actually a $395 special paint color. The engine is a 3.6 liter V6 mated to an 8-speed automatic, and I said before, the ratings on that engine are 308 horsepower and 275 pounds-feet of torque. As equipped, and this one really doesn't have any options, it just has that bright blue metallic exterior color and then a wireless charging pad. As equipped, it comes in at $45,865. That's about the least you could expect to pay for a ZR2. I guess an extended cab configuration would be a little bit less expensive, but 46K is ballpark base MSRP for one of these. Fuel economy with this 3.6 liter V6 comes in at 16 city, 18 highway, and 17 combined. I thought it would be interesting to compare the fuel economy across different configurations of the Colorado here. So I printed this out from fueleconomy.gov. If you're looking for fuel economy figures, fueleconomy.gov is the source I used, government website. You're getting it straight from the source, and they offer a lot of convenient comparison features for all different configurations of vehicles, and trucks in particular offer a lot of different configurations. Here we've got the ZR2 we're looking at here. So ZR2 gas V6, rated at 16 city, 18 highway, 17 combined. If you were to go to the diesel engine in a ZR2, and keep in mind that's a pretty steep price premium you'll pay for that diesel, you're looking at 18 city, 22 highway, and 19 combined. So that's 2 better in the city, 4 better on the highway, and 2 better overall. Keeping in mind though that this is on the EPA cycle, most people find that they can get even better fuel economy out of diesel engines, but still it's not a huge improvement. And I've driven the Colorado with the diesel engine, and 181 horsepower is barely adequate for US roads. It's a little terrifying to pull out onto the highway in a Colorado with the diesel engine. And then here I added the regular Colorado with the V6 in the diesel just to show the price you pay, or the penalty you pay, going with the ZR2. I think probably the best value, it may not be the most interesting powertrain, but the best value is probably still just the V6. Especially because it makes adequate power for US roads, unlike the diesel. Anyway, let's turn this on. Here's the key. Here's the lock cylinder. Some people might like that. I just hate having to dig for the key every time I sit down. But here's the interior. It's really nothing special. Kind of a penalty box in here, to be honest, but the tech is at least good. The gauge cluster is easy to read. The readout here is pretty nice. It's full color. Not the highest resolution, but you really don't need this to be high resolution. This is kind of egregious though. It's just plastic right here. I mean, the whole interior is plastic, of course, but this is particularly flimsy plastic that they put here to kind of segment the fuel and temperature gauges from the tachometer and speedometer. But I mean, I can see that. I can just reach behind that. Yeah, it'll probably hold up, but initial quality impressions are mediocre at best here. Hard plastic on the door panel. This is hardly a soft touch material. It's like a hard rubber. There's really no cushioning to it. Switch gear is okay, and it is one touch up and down on, well, one touch down at least. The driver's window is at least one touch up. Anyway, despite the fact that this vehicle came out in the US for the 2015 model year, it's based on a version of the Colorado sold globally for about a decade now. So the standards of this interior are up to par for like South America and Southeast Asia, but compared to some of the nicer trucks that we're used to here in the US, this isn't quite up to par, but it's not bad. It's really not bad. In terms of off-road features, another one of the big draws of the ZR2 is that it has a locking front differential. Other than the Jeep Gladiator, no other vehicles in this segment offer a locking front diff, and the Gladiator is kind of a Jeep Wrangler with a bed. So really unique that an IFS vehicle offers a locking front differential. The only other vehicle sold in the US with an independent front suspension that also offers a locking front diff, as far as I know, is the Mercedes-Benz G-Class. But of course, there's also a locking rear differential. Your four-wheel drive controls are over here. So you've got 2 high. There is an auto mode. I like to see that. That's like all-wheel drive. Not all competitors offer that. In fact, I don't know that any competitors offer that. Then of course you've got 4 high, 4 low. You can push this button for an off-road mode, although it doesn't really get more specific than that. You've just got off-road mode, off and on. Some of the Colorado's competitors, like the Toyota Tacoma, they offer some more sophisticated terrain management tools. The Tacoma has different terrain modes, and it has an off-road cruise control feature. Same goes for the Ford Ranger. Same goes for the Jeep Gladiator, I believe, as well. So Colorado is somewhat lacking when it comes to terrain management, but I think the reason GM opted to include a front locker is to make up for that lack of proprietary technology when it comes to off-road stuff offered in the Colorado here. You get heated seats, and it uses GM's kind of weird heated seat feature here where you've got fully heated and then just for your back. That's probably nice if you work outside and maybe drive home on a hot day with a sore back. You can turn on just the back heating if you don't want the entire seat to be heated. Infotainment system is pretty good. This is pretty familiar if you've been around GM vehicles from the past 5 years or so. It feels modern. It's high resolution. You've got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Good maps, good user interface, intuitive controls here. It's really responsive. Yeah, one of the best infotainment systems on the market. Let's go into reverse here. The backup camera really isn't too bad. It's just a backup camera. There's no top-down view, but the camera itself is pretty high resolution. You've got a couple different grid markings there. That's for if you're towing to see where the center is, and then this is more for, if you're backing up to tell you what direction you're going in. One thing I really don't love about the Colorado ZR2 here is that it doesn't offer any active safety features. Every competitor offers at least some active safety features. A few in this segment offer pretty much all that you could ask for, but the Colorado here offers none of them. And we're at a point in time where it kind of feels like an ethical failing to sell a new vehicle here in the United States in 2022 that doesn't come with any active safety tech. No blind spot monitoring, no forward collision warning, let alone forward collision prevention system, no pedestrian detection, no radar cruise control. This vehicle is pretty analog in that sense, which I know some people will like, but personally, at least on a new vehicle costing $46,000, I like to see some of that technology, especially given that the competitors offer it pretty much across the board. Beyond that, you've got USB-A ports, 2 of them here, and then an aux port, then a 12-volt outlet. This is a wireless charging pad, similar to, or the same as in the GMC Canyon I reviewed. This is a Google Pixel 3. It's the regular size, and I've got a relatively slim case. The design of this wireless charging pad, which, mind you, costs $75, the design here is so bad, you can't even fit this phone on here without taking it out of its case. So there we go. It's out of its case and it fits. Just because of design decisions they made, though, this charging pad is limited to pretty much the smallest modern smartphones, and you have to take them out of their case. So this feels like completely wasted effort on the part of General Motors. Really don't understand it, but yeah, definitely a quirk of the ZR2. Let's check out the second row really quick. Here we are in the second row, and it's somewhat tight back here. I could probably tolerate this for a few hours. It's really not too bad. The space underneath my feet isn't too generous. There's a small hump, not the biggest, but it's definitely a hump. You do get 2 USB-A ports back here and then a 12-volt outlet. I'd like to see one of these be USB-C, especially given that this vehicle was facelifted just last year. You'd think they could have added a couple USB-C ports, but oh well. Then there's kind of a really shallow storage cubby here. You get a map pocket on the back of the passenger seat, nothing on the back of the driver's seat, and then this folds out. You've got a couple cup holders, call them a pair of cup holders. Overhead lights. There are grab handles. Notice though there are no grab handles for the driver or passenger. This is an off-road trim level. Often when I'm off-road, I like to grab the grab handle for extra support, but there aren't any here in the Colorado. And then beyond that, no sunroof. No sunroof available at all on the Colorado. Something else to call out, because when you're comparing prices, you have to not only compare price, but you also have to compare features. So a competitor costing exactly the same as this Colorado ZR2 here, but maybe if the competitor offers a sunroof, say, that makes the ZR2 actually more expensive because you don't get that feature in this vehicle. Then back here, the only other thing worth highlighting is sliding rear glass, manually sliding, but pretty big opening there. You could fit probably a 2x8, maybe even a 2x10 through there if you needed to. Yeah, so nice to have features like this, although you get that in every competitor. And yeah, that's about it. Seat back's kind of upright. Again, though, say you were taking this vehicle on a camping trip and you wanted someone to ride back here, it's tolerable. It's really not too bad. I could make it back here for 4 or 5 hours probably. Okay, now for some on-road driving in the 2022 Colorado ZR2 here. So the suspension is nice. The vehicle doesn't really wallow. The suspension, of course, is maybe a little bit softer than what you find in a sedan. It's meant to handle bumps and pavement and dirt and things at high speed. So it bounces around a little bit, but it levels out pretty quickly, which I appreciate. There's 50 miles per hour, so it's not fast. The 8-speed automatic gets a lot of criticism. I haven't really found anything wrong with it. I don't like it as much as Ford's 10-speed. Ford's 10-speed feels more precise than this, more deliberate than this, but I haven't noticed any egregious problems with the 8-speed here. Ford and General Motors developed these transmissions together. Years back, the agreement was that Ford would develop a 10-speed and GM would develop an 8-speed. So the 10-speed automatic used in GM trucks was developed by Ford. What I heard, or what I've kind of been led to believe, is that Ford did not like this 8-speed, and therefore they don't offer it in any of their vehicles. The thinking was that the Ranger was maybe supposed to be offered with this 8-speed that was developed by GM, but instead Ford chose to just put the 10-speed that they developed into the Ranger. But yeah, that's the story with that. So GM's full-size trucks use a Ford 10-speed automatic, whereas the Colorado here uses an 8-speed developed by GM that was supposed to also be used by Ford, but for some reason Ford doesn't use it. First speed bump, that was at about 25 miles per hour. Felt fine, didn't expect it to feel any different. This one's, that was at about 33 miles per hour. Do you hear the key rattling around? This is an off-road truck. This is meant to go through rough pavement. And that's what you're gonna hear anytime you drive through rough pavement. That was 26 miles per hour. That's a bigger speed bump. When you go over those speed bumps in these trucks, the back ends kind of tend to snap down. It's not a real pleasant experience, but the speed bumps, they kind of peak in the middle. So maybe not the best evaluation of this vehicle's off-road performance, that's for sure. So there's your look at this 2022 Chevrolet Colorado ZR2. This truck's a lot of fun. I think what is particularly cool about it is that unlike its competitors, it actually has a wider track, 3.5 inches wider than in a regular Colorado, so it's going to give you more off-road stability, and maybe more importantly to some people, it makes the truck look a lot more aggressive maybe than its competitors. It sits 2 inches taller than a base Colorado. It's got those interesting, maybe not necessarily better, but certainly more interesting Multimatic shock absorbers. It's got a front locker, which is cool, that I think GM included to make up for the fact that this truck really doesn't have much proprietary off-road terrain management systems like its competition does. Interior is powertrain is fine by my analysis. The diesel is an interesting proposition, but having driven it, it's really, really, really slow. And it really doesn't come with much of a fuel economy benefit. And well, it's also a lot more expensive than the gas V6 here. So unfortunately, while it's kind of the the boring answer, I'd probably just go with the gas V6. The Bison is really compelling. If you're interested in a Colorado ZR2 and you plan to modify it, by all means, just get the Bison, because it comes with some really, really cool tech. American Expedition Vehicles does some really cool stuff. And the ZR2 Bison is probably one of the most interesting, if not the most interesting option in the midsize truck segment. I'm not saying it's objectively the best, but that's a really, really compelling proposition. So as far as the whole segment goes, if I were shopping for an off-road oriented midsize truck, it would be a tough choice. I really like the Ford Ranger. I think it offers a lot of value. I don't know that I'd go with the Tremor, but I would definitely go with an FX4 model. There's a ton of value in that package for really not a lot of money. I know a lot of people like the Toyota Tacoma in this segment. My issues with the Tacoma are payload capacity. It's ridiculously low to the point where you're likely to overload it going on a camping trip with a few of your friends. I don't love the powertrain in the Tacoma, and I still don't love that seating position, but mainly payload and powertrain are the main disqualifiers for the Tacoma in my eyes. The Nissan Frontier really doesn't offer anything new. I find that vehicle very underwhelming. I don't think it's a bad truck, but I think you can get more value out of a Ford Ranger. And then the outliers in this segment, the Jeep Gladiator. If you want a Wrangler with a pickup bed, then by all means, the Gladiator is your obvious choice. And then there's the Honda Ridgeline, which if you don't plan to go off-road, then the Ridgeline is probably the best choice for most people in this segment. But I will admit it lacks some of the youthful, sporty appeal that you get from a traditional body-on-frame truck with traditional low-range four-wheel drive. So that's my take on the Colorado ZR2 here and on the greater midsize truck segment. I could rant and rave and talk about the midsize truck segment for days. So if you have any questions about anything, feel free to shoot me a message. I've analyzed it pretty closely over the past several years, and I've put a lot of miles on everything in this segment. So hopefully I can help with any decision making there. But yeah, there's your look at the ZR2. Thank you for watching.